Either through and passing on the street or those sorts. Yeah. So I've shown out passing many times. I don't know what that is. I used to always try to like zone people out. You know, you get there, and the great thing with the Y is it's so inclusive. Get done because it's so busy.
Great. Calling you order at the minutes room. And prior to today's meeting, the board met for the session with the discuss management therapy, services act, and as putting some police bylaws in 2019. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? John, second. All in favor? Any declaration of conflict of interest arising out of the minutes and system on the agenda? And just before, just wanted to put that this on the agenda, I just wanted to add on the official agenda that Jason Granny is doing the presentation. And presentations.
Okay. I'll stay. I don't know. You're just but the why not okay. So it's to be community policing June. So thanks for having me. I actually like giving updates. I think it's actually quite healthy, not only for the role that I'm in, but I think it's also good for everybody to be up to date on what I'm doing when I'm out in the community and why I'm actually doing it. So as Garth would attest, I think when I was presenting at Silver Seas, whenever I'm actually presenting, I think it's important. You can. I get asked a lot to do presentations, but there should be a reason why you're actually there and actually presenting, and it should align with the work that we're doing here. For a lot of people who might not be aware of the work that the Youngstown Police Service does over and above just those calls for service, I like to give everybody a brief overview of the service itself, leading into why the presentation is actually being presented, and then what can the members or the community do after I leave. Because there's only one person in this role, there's certainly a lot that can be done and can still be done, but after I leave, there's basically I try to do this kind of like homework, whether it's for a class of students, whether it's for the for the Silver Seas group, or whether it's for my friends up at the Muslim Association. The idea is to transfer that knowledge moving forward. So community policing, engaging and partnering in our community, is really, really important. So it's imperative that we're working in partnership. So as I have worked, mentioned to Inspector Foodie, Bishop, and the Chief, when I was hired, there's certain priority populations in policing that we work with all community members, but there are certain priority populations, and there's 9 that I certainly identified as areas that we could maybe do a deeper dive into working with those populations, specifically with this role here, my role. There were seniors, older adults, and retirees, local Indigenous community, the two-spirited gay, lesbian, bisexual, and queer plus community, mental health community, our developmental disability community, which includes our Special Olympics, which law enforcement does a lot with Special Olympics. Our newcomers, because Owen Sound is an area that there's a lot of newcomers coming to our area. Yesterday, I was on the Grey Bruce Local Immigration Network. I'm part of that committee. Had a meeting yesterday. There's more newcomers coming. I'm actually going to be speaking with the Ukrainians who are going to be arriving shortly, because there's some worries about language barriers and also about some threats, which I have seen firsthand because I've gone a couple meetings with people hacking into their calls and some really nasty stuff that's being forwarded to the Ukrainian community. So they've asked for just some help in that regard. So I'll do some education, and then I've and that's kind of like a triage. If it's serious in nature and we need to get officers involved, we'll certainly do so. What the great thing is they're reaching out to me now. So it's not like you're catches us off guard. The emails are coming, which is good. Certainly our homelessness, we certainly have a homelessness population. Children, youth, and teens, very vital and important in our community, and of course, our Muslim community. So I know I don't have a long time, so I'll give a bit of an overview because I thoroughly believe you can put all this stuff in words, but if you're not willing to walk the walk, you can talk about it all you want to, you're in the face, but if there's no action to it, all it is a social media post. And as these partners will tell you, it's just a social media post, it's just hollow language. So it's really important that it's not hollow language, and that's not only myself, but challenging all of our membership to make sure that we are engaging in a healthy way with our priority populations. And that's not to say that these are all. These are just some that are identified. And I think as we look at the call for service and the work that we do in our community, some of these priority populations come up with regularity. With regards to seniors, older adults, and retirees, I don't actually think we get the calls for service that we probably should. After just coming back from elder abuse conference, there's 75% of elder abuse is not reported. So we know that that is a very underreported where people are actually getting abused by family members. There's usually some financial situations, and they are either too afraid or unwilling to come forward because it's a family member. So we have to make sure that we get our community, if you see it, you should report it. Oftentimes it goes unreported, and that's certainly something that I want to push moving forward. So there will be a Legion presentation series that will be happening. I've been in touch with the Legion, and we are going to be working on elder abuse, frauds and scams, and internet safety. Will be a sign-up session. This Thursday, as an example, another example, working with our seniors, I'm partnering with the Owen Sound IT department and the library. Seniors are welcome to attend in the auditorium at 6:30 with a press release that went out. And we'll be talking about internet safety, social media awareness, and any general questions that the public actually has. So we will be there. It's a sign-up thing. I think right now we have 20 seniors already signed up for Thursday, which is great. So those are just some areas. Local Indigenous community, we're constantly working with our local Indigenous community. We've now written in coordination 3 different grants with Moequidon, with the hopes to continue to build in that regards. We just hired 2 Indigenous youth for our summer program. One I didn't know was Indigenous until after the fact. She just happened to be a great candidate. The second one was a youth that we had last year, and she was amazing at her job, and she reapplied, thankfully, and so we hired her again. And we have also hired a newcomer, which is part of the Newcomer Program. His name is Sham. And Sham will be working with us, no different than that 2 did last year. And I'll be working with Y Settlement Services if we need extra supports, if there's any language barriers with Sham, they'll be providing that, so it won't take time away from my work, and Sham can get up to speed as quickly as possible. Our Gay Straight community, certainly with Pride, we're constantly engaging with them. Inspector Bishop has been in regular contact and communication with them. Our mental health community, CMHA is really important. Jackie Ralph and her team. So Jackie and I have worked together in partnership and collaboration for the last 15 years in different capacities. We're going to continue to work in that regards. This summer, we're going to be working up at Alpha Street Resource Center, and we're doing curriculum-based work with youth up at Alpha Street. It will be on safety, the effects of substance misuse and abuse on teens. We have some partners who are going to be supplying food, and then the summer students and myself and some of Jackie's team, we're going to go outside and kick the ball around and just have that fun interaction. So it'll be in an in-classroom setting at the resource center. We'll have some food, so we know that they've actually eaten healthy, so it aligns with public health philosophies as well. And then we're going to head outside, and then I'll obviously have to head out to some other work. But it's going to be a pilot project. The only other pilot project that I know that they're doing this type of work is actually in Barrie. I'm heading up to Barrie next week to sit in on Barrie's work that they're doing in the community, working specifically with priority populations in caretaker housing projects. So I'll be there next week to kind of see how theirs rolls out. I'll be rolling out ours, and I will be asking for feedback from the County of Bray with regards to what we put there. Developmental disability and community, we're a very strong supporter of REACH. And we've just hired a member of REACH. We just hired a Special Olympian. His name's Matthew Post. He'll be here every Friday for a couple hours doing some work with us, and he'll also be a Special Olympics ambassador. super excited, great kid. He's 37 years old, but really engaged. And his mom says, as soon as Wednesday comes around, he can't wait to get here till Friday. If I had more time in my schedule, I'd like to bring him in more, but it's really time consuming for me until we can get Matthew to the point where he can come in and work with newcomers I had mentioned. So we actually have Syrian women who are going to be coming in and touring the station. 3 Syrian women who are very interested in policing. So they've already reached out to me. So I'll be meeting with them at the Alliance Church. Then they'll be coming here for a shoot, which is great. The idea is that when they are approaching us, that's healthy. That's not us banging on doors. They're approaching us because they want that natural interaction. So we're going to be doing that. We also continually work with our newcomer population, specifically as they come here. So the local immigration network is vital because there's so many different people who are working with people who are coming to this area and have direct contact with them. So we are, to the best of my knowledge, right now the only police service in Great Lakes who sits at that table, and I think that's healthy for us to remain at that table. So we can be that constant contact. Homelessness. So in encampment walks, we go out with the Y. I say we collaboratively. Usually, when I go out with the Y, I usually take an officer with me. So usually, Constable Martin or Constable Willis will join me. Constable Edmondson will also probably join in from time to time. And really, we work with United Way and the County of Great Lakes supply us with supplies. We've got some warm socks, we've got some gift cards. And it's really just a check in to make sure that everybody's good, they're healthy, and as it gets closer to winter, we really try to move people inside. So we work with the Y to move them inside. We go to break down some of those barriers with our homeless population, but also, if somebody was struggling when we approached on site, maybe they're struggling with mental health, but they have an addiction, that we can actually get them the help that they need. So that was asked of us by the Y. We like to do it. It's a really good way to have that. Children, youth, and teens. If you look at my calendar, I've been at every school all over Owen Sound constantly since the pandemic really started to lift after March break. Myriad of different topics and issues that we're dealing with. Teens is becoming a little bit more serious with social media. We're getting a lot of issues that are happening in that regard, so we're really trying to work on that. And then human trafficking. So Constable Martin and I have been working with St. Mary's, so rolling out human trafficking curriculum in the schools. They have asked us to be at the school, so we have we go, we introduce ourselves, any questions, try to make it as transparent as possible, but also letting females know that if they had some questions or concerns, that they have that face. Our Muslim community, last but not least on that list anyway, is quarterly. I go up to the Muslim Association. I sit on prayer. I'm not Muslim faith. They know that, and so I sit at the back. I listen to the whole prayer. I can ask any questions of our Muslim members, which is great because I get to learn. And then I head to the front. They invite me to the front, and I usually let them know anything that's kind of relevant or current for their families, for any members of their families, or anything that's happening in Owen Sound that they might be interested for them. They have reached out to us twice this past year. A couple of times they've asked just to have a presence close by. Obviously, when the situation in London happened, where those Muslim individuals were actually killed, they were really worried for their own members, so they asked if we could have a presence there and come in and show the presence out there, and they're very appreciative of that. And so we've done that, and they've been reaching out to ask us for something like that. So we will continue to do that. It seems to be a great way to connect and also to learn. And I've actually had a couple of officers now ask if they can possibly go sit up there as well. So ideally, that would be covered. So anything, if we click the next one, sorry, I don't have much time, but I'm not a short talker, and but leadership and teamwork. So if you have seen me present before, there has to be a strategic direction of why I'm doing what I'm doing in this role, and it has to kind of align with the service itself. And so, as you can see, there's kind of lines, but direction as to what works and why I think it actually works based on the work that I have done both at the college and public health before I came here. Is bringing community organizations and agencies together in partnership. It's really, really important to break down any kind of barriers or frequency barrier that might be out there, and work from a standpoint that benefits everybody. we need to have a collective community impact. I think that's been brought up many times, both at this table and our community. So we really have to make sure that we are focusing on the areas of crime that we can actually try to assist with, and inviting feedback from and input from our community. And that's when it's really good when we're actually sitting at the table with our partners and getting the feedback and having a transparent conversation. We want real solutions that are mutually beneficial, both to our officers and our civilian, and certainly our call center, but also to the community. And sometimes we need to push a bit of a healthy boundary. We had never, ever sat in prayer at the Muslim Association ever. They've never had a police presence ever enter that building other than when they actually had the racial graffiti put on the walls. That was by no fault of anybody else. But again, it's a pushing a healthy boundary, because when you're not Muslim, sometimes you don't think I can go in there, but it's actually very much open. Everything that we do has to align with the core values of the service. And within this job, I certainly try to make sure that I circle back and ask command to make sure that what I'm doing, my role, aligns with what they're expecting. So basically, strategy to engage community members. So this is just providing the information, learning opportunities, not only for myself, because I can have all the information I want, but if it's not disseminated to the other members, then it's really just one person at the top, and I get direct contact with all the members all the time. So specifically about priority populations. I try to send out information to the sergeants, so if anybody needs some extra support, so they need something handed out to a family in regards to a specific issue, I consider my office also a library. Amy's done a great job. If you need some extra resources, I know the resources I want. She does a really good job of sourcing it out, and we have some resources here. Because after an officer leaves, they have to go to the next call, but we want to make sure that the family, if possible, has something or a contact or something to call. Sergeants always do a great job of having stuff downstairs, but sometimes there's some extra stuff I try to find it. Using our social media platforms to support, educate, and advocate for priority populations. This is really important because we actually have a lot of people who follow us on social media. I think I mentioned before. If you're looking in the city of Owen Sound and the greater county area, we would probably be in the top 5 or 6 as far as people who actually follow us on a regular basis. Public health and the city of Owen Sound and county of Grey are ahead of us, but after that, we have a lot of people who are interested in working. So it's important that we walk the walk. We do what's just. So you can post all you want about, it's Indigenous History Month, but I believe Inspector Bishop and the chief were actually down at the morning sunrise. I think was also acting sergeant Kearney. I was down there for a bit. So that's that part I mean about walking the walk. Like you can post anything you want on social media, but actually physically be there, or raising the flag out front, or to have members down at Pride, and then having people from Pride thanking the service for being down there and working. That's really helpful. And then continuing to learn and listen. I know that as the chief probably mentioned many times, the work that we're doing with our Indigenous community, getting all of our members up to speed and learning more about the history of our Indigenous community. And that's the conversation downstairs is really helpful. And the stuff that we don't know, or people that don't know now, and I can say that probably much anywhere in society. It's really good. It's good for our members. It's really good. So really, if anybody ever has any questions about what we do, it kind of looks like this: the priority populations. I'll list the priority population, the action item that we're kind of working towards, and the partners that we have involved. If it's just all one-sided, please, then it doesn't go with the chart that I have. When I sat in front of Inspector Fleming and the chief and Chris Hartley, I'm hoping they hire me for a reason, because I had a plan. I want to make sure it aligns with the plan, but also aligns with the here. So if they ever need anything, that's kind of how it rolls. So this is the priority population. These are the action items. These are the partners, and these are the dates of action items. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what I do. And here is what I mean by walking the walk. So you can grab any picture off the internet and you can post it wherever you want. But if our members aren't part of it, or this isn't our stuff, then it doesn't matter. It's just hollow posts. But when we actually have our members involved and engaged, then we are truly a community police service, and that's what it's all about. In my personal opinion, anyway. From supporting a young lady who's running to raise money for the hospital and mental health, to get, to bring our youth, work with other youth, because peer-to-peer youth engagement is the best practice. I got the headset on up there because we're doing podcasts on elder abuse, which has actually been distributed across Canada. To having our youth take our swag and actually wear it with regularity, because it's really important. The chief with so those are 2 St. Mary's students, our Native Studies students. We have new art coming. It's actually should be here anytime. So we have more Native art that's actually coming, which is great. And then any way that we can engage our community to make it better, certainly beneficial not only for us but for. So that's all I have. I know that there's much more work that needs to be done. We continue to do that, but that's where we're kind of at. A nutshell of certainly where I'm at in my role and where I continue to move forward. So I'll stop there. I know that there's other things to be done in this meeting, so I'll stay with that. Anybody has any questions?
So I'll just say thank you, Jason, for coming in and keeping it very brief for abundance of information that really displays over the surface of what we do and the service system and the role that we're hoping to do well. Hoping on all of us and we expect that we want to recognize that here in the meeting, but I'm sure that we'll use some questions for you as well.
Some cultures have learned or justify fear of police.
Yeah.
I worked the last 6 years with them from their treating Mohammeds.
Yes. Yeah, I know.
Great kids.
Yes.
And they explain this.
Yeah.
It's assumed the cops on the street.
Yeah.
It's just assumed. It's transactional. So I guess what I'm asking is, are you having success, breaking some of those stereotypes down? And would they consider raising police?
So
Yeah.
I'm glad you actually brought that up. So I believe, I'm going to say it's been 2 years ago. I can't remember if it was the chief or inspector, but we actually got a call from a lady. We had an Eritrean family. Actually, what's the gentleman's name? He actually works at the Mass. Detailed. I mean, he and his wife lived down by a KFC. And they were being harassed constantly by their neighbors. And they were afraid to call police. And
Why?
because they came from Eritrea in Africa. And so over there, they were black. And 2, when they went to the police were closely aligned with the political system at that particular time. So they were afraid. Because if you went there, you provided information. They didn't like the information. You know what? You're gone. And so they were really afraid to come to police because that mindset is, well, it happens here in Eritrea. It must happen here. And so, of course, I get the email from one of the members of the command to say, would you mind reaching out and say, we need to fix this issue, especially with newcomers. So that's when we kind of build a bit of a plan. So how do we work with our newcomer platform? We don't have this issue because it certainly is something when you live here and you work here, like someone like myself, I don't think about it, because I mean, color means nothing to me. You're a good person, you're a good person. But for them, I can totally understand it. So we worked and I'm doing this even today. So when I meet with a newcomer family, specifically a newcomer family that's been identified as maybe having fear of police, or they're in an area of town where they might have a fear of calling, not thinking that police would actually attend because of the color of their skin, where they're from, or the experience they've had in the past. I meet with them and plan with them. A golf shirt, pair of jeans, and if they have kids, I bring some teddy bear or something. I introduce myself. We usually go to a mutual sort of spot that's beneficial to them. I don't ask them. That's not. I go to wherever they're most comfortable. So when we've started meeting with this family, we met at Donna's place, and because that was a spot that was a sponsor family, that was a spot that they were comfortable with. We met there, had a barbecue. Aklilu and his wife could ask me anything that they wanted to ask about this, about me, about my role. I interact with kids. When I interact with kids, it's not one. There's a reason why it's one because you want to have that. Especially if you're dealing with kids who are non-threatening. There's nothing worse than if I come up and I do this to a child, I automatically raise that fear factor. So if I'm talking, even if I'm talking to a kid or a teen, I talk to them like this, or if I'm in a kid, it's down on one, and you explain that, like, that the respect level has to be there. Working with the kids individually, giving them time. Talk to actually ask them about everything. He was telling me about some of the situations I brought back to Inspector Mooney. So we had officers just kind of walking around there. Actually, Lou and his family loved it. And they have actually one picture, if I brought it back up, there's a couple of air trained kids, and they actually, what we did is met with them. Then I went to their place in uniform. They invited me there because they thought it might also be good for the neighbors to kind of see that I was going in. But I came outside and I was playing with the kids. So I wasn't going in there to deal with them in that way. I went in there, they had coffee with them. I learned a little bit about the culture about some of the summer students. We went outside and played. I was in uniform, played outside. Neighbors kind of saw it. Officers go by, and actually says officers wait all the time when they go by. We made our officers aware of the situation. Actually, Lou and his family got a fender bender, and they came here and were comfortable coming to the station, talking about the situation. Sergeant on duty already knew the situation, dealt with Ackley Lou directly, fixed the problem. Donna sent us an email saying, "Thank you. This is how it should be done." So we kind of built that staged approach. I'm the same guy in a golf shirt and pair of jeans as when I put on my uniform, and I put on the uniform for usually it's for the safety of myself. You know. It's not to look intimidating. It's generally you need to wear a vest for yourself. And so, to the best of my knowledge, they really haven't had issues in that area, or we haven't had calls for service in that area in that regard. We have also been recognized. Joan Beecroft, Donna Jansen, and Stuart Fitzing and Jay. There's actually a book that was actually just released last summer. You're actually recognized for the work that we're actually doing with Newcomers. Happy to share that. Just the work that we continue to do with Newcomers. The fact that Syrian women want to come here and take a tour of the station, following us up, to me, is healthy. Our Newcomer Program, having a newcomer hired every week. So we get 4 summer students. I got approval from command every summer. One of those students will be somebody where English is not, their first language. But they can come in here and they get to work with other students. And build them up to an area where they're comfortable. And then they go out, just like any other summer student, are working with the community. With our Emancipation Festival, I'm in contact with them. They have asked us to be there. They, in years past, with Black Lives Matter, I'm not really sure, but we want you there. We want to keep that bridge built. So I mentioned that to the chief. So we will actually have presence at their recommendation, which is great. They have asked that our newcomer be there, so you can maybe, there might be some lineage or some heritage with Misham and that too from last year. So we will certainly put it out there for all the newcomers to meet us down there and be part of that whole process. So the immigration network is vital for me to be part of that, because if things come up, especially as a result of policing in one town, we can get on it. We don't know. We didn't know about that situation about KFC. Now that we know about it, I have to take a different approach when I'm dealing with newcomers to make them feel comfortable, to bring them into the station, to see the officers and civilians, to show them dispatch, which is also important, so the kids can see. There's just a bunch of friendly people in a busy area taking calls, but they're here, they're local, they care about you. You'll see them on the streets, and if you call, we will answer that call. An officer will go, regardless if you're from Africa or Ukraine or Toronto or Chatsworth. If it's a city rolling sound call, we'll go. And that's the process, and that's the way it should be. But you can say that, but then you actually have to show it. So I think it's that tiered responsibility. So I'm glad you're involved with that family. They're a great family.
They're up 9th Street.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was
I mean, it's tough to navigate. You could spend hours with it, and it's so important because you're their first encounter with law enforcement.
Yes.
And if you get it wrong, they just say, "Well, that's just the way it wasn't."
That's right. Yeah. And so breaking down. So when I talk about the community partnership, you can only meet with families one-on-one. Like I would literally have to do it, and that's impossible. One person can't do that. But when you're sitting at the table, when you're when the Muslim Association congregation, when somebody comes over from another country and they might be a Muslim faith, The idea is that membership should feel comfortable saying, call the police. You know, the Alliance Church, when they have the Newcomer Program and the Eritreans, and John, you'll certainly know this because you know them, the the Eritreans are affiliated with the Alliance Church. And they often learn English as a second language at the Alliance Church. So whether I show up on their first day in September to greet them and walk into the community, or the chief or one of the inspectors goes up and says hi, that's a healthy interaction. But also to know that that Andy and Andy's husband, anyway, they now email me to say we got somebody new coming here, can connect with them, can we meet with them, and if they feel that they're coming from a situation that is uncomfortable, and yeah, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to meet with them, but at the same time, it's them saying, you know what, if you need to call 911, call 911, and they're going to answer that call. So that's why it's imperative that we're at the table with these community members, so that they can transfer and pass along that information. So that's that homework okay guys, when I'm done, if you have questions, send them to me. How can we break down this barrier even more? Do we need to do a tour? Do I need to do a Zoom meeting so I can have more people involved? Do I need to do a one-on-one stop in? Whatever works, we'll try to make it work. And the other thing is having our summer students. I mean, there's nothing more healthy than a peer-to-peer you can meet. So if you're, like we have like last year we had that too, who English was definitely not his first language, and that too barely spoke any English when he started. When he finished, he was able to tell the members the story about that. It was in concentration. His feet used to get whipped. That's why he couldn't leave the concentration camps for fun. And he told the story, and of course, not to be dragged when that too tells the story. You know, at the age of 15, leaving his family, he's wanting to get to Canada or to Europe so he can get back to his family and good life. He now tells a story about I work for the Old Police and like Sham knows Neptune, and so Neptune talked to Sham about it. And that's what it should be. That's that natural peer-to-peer interaction. If he had a good healthy experience, he's going to transfer that to someone else, as opposed to me trying to sell it just so we look good and I can make it social. That does nothing if it doesn't work. So that's what we're trying to do. If you ever hear anything, you know, in the community, anybody, feel free to reach out. Let the chief know, the inspectors. I hope to think that my role is part of breaking down those barriers because our officers are so busy. They want to call that if I can make my time available, so. Any other questions for anybody else?
There's a lot of great things obviously happening here, but I think what speaks volumes here is a lot of our other municipalities, province right now, you're seeing police being ejected from schools, not participating in pride parades, things like that, you're not welcome anymore. It's the opposite up here. You probably remember it was a year or two ago, we were getting schools outside of the city calling out going, how do we get Jason to come to our school? Can we buy him? That sort of thing.
Kevin was still asking for that.
What a different
I keep telling him, move the school on the other side of the street.
You know, you go to GTA and it's, you know, they're passing resolutions out there, school boards, that the police are no longer attendance. It doesn't have that class unless it's nice. So, I think that itself speaks volumes to some of the things that happen.
And again, you have to be open to having yourself evaluated when you're in schools and working in different areas before I came here. And you got to be comfortable with, you know, constructive criticism. So I'm in the schools, I'm asking the teachers to ask the students when I'm done what they learned. Or I leave them with, so we do a little pre-test and a post-test. So I know that the knowledge is actually been transferred. But everything that I do, I don't deliver stuff on mental health. That's not my area of expertise. Mental health is obviously important, but anything to do with safety, anything to do with policing, anything to do where you can actually get yourself in trouble with the law, or it could become a safety concern, that is policing. And we should be talking about that stuff in the schools. And we should do it in a fun, effective way. Me standing up in front as a talking head doesn't work. If the students aren't involved, then it's just me saying it's no different than a teacher. So I have to think of ways that are creative, innovative, and interactive. And then be open to have that feedback so we can make it better. We want to be in the schools, we want to be with our youth. That to me is very, very helpful. Anyway, thank you. I want to invite more time.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Jason. Great. Thank you. Yes, take care.
Excellent. Thank you.
You should hire people who are more enthusiastic. And see what it's like.
You know what,
Oh, yeah.
background and experience, creating curriculum, but education, all the work that he's done, he's product. Whole lot on there.
Vastly different position than ever been before.
Yes.
That's used to be the majority of the work was just for resource officer. What all the schools, Jason still fits all that in, but that's so.
Sometimes when all the schools.
Right, we mentioned, number 5, confirmation of minutes. Session. Seconded. All in favor? Any additional ones? Moving to correspondence received, and this is for update on material. Unfortunately, a lot of information is in there, but it's not changed. Moving on to the East Sims report. So on May 25th, May 27th, Jerry Associates for Service Location. This was the first time we did a hybrid conference, and possibly could continue Garth and I go after 2 weeks, but this time talk. There are a number of presentations over the next days. The recording of those can be found on OSPSB's website, portal, and some of the more interesting presentations modernization of these government materials presented by Veterans, Director of Chief of Staff Services. This presentation can also be found on the website as well. General concerns for thinking more about governance and we talked about good government needs to be properly resourced, which as it says, is governance. We also talked about the government cycle, responsibility for its accountability to the inspector, soldier, and also the public. And we also talked about policy for legislation and other policy here. Also, procedures complying with legislation, policy, chief analysts of the president, service policy, and achieve the compliance with legislation. Some of the all started with our policies, the current.
Yes, just to comment, provide a board update on that. We've been meeting with the Preston monthly, seeing what active, some months more than others, but close to 170 procedures that we're doing a review of, and we're at the last 9, I believe it's now. Hoping to get through the last one, and it was important to get through the procedures and get before we start the policy report. So once we get those 9 finished, then turn it over to the folks matching policies that points to those. But it's been a great opportunity to do this in Preston. It's experience working with both the chief of police and the schools and inspector and advisor bring this up to speed. And some have been updated since they're implementing. We have a number that come on since then, and
There was also panel discussion released in 2023 and beyond. They were soliciting the views and eventually expanding the views of special counsel. Interesting statistics that provide panel discussion and following up on discussion here. Really, and while the spring material provided a general report for 1,000 officers are complement, there are actually 2,500 officers in the complement and all services across Ontario. Simply those on children disability, disability, but they also have been retired, not been filled. They also know that on May 24th weekend, there were 108 shifts. Talking about having right under officers is getting a big challenge. They also spoke about mental health calls and issues that police but they also acknowledged that 1 a.m. it's available to make a call. They stressed the need for municipal councils to approach the government funding gap in mental health funding, better address this 24/7. They also talked about the use of technology that reduces officers' time, take responding to calls and I think it was pretty good. And lots of time for that. Spoke to that, it's not facts of the field.
Electronic. Transcription wasn't that important. Transcription.
Friday is to Mr. Darlings, to the executive director of the service board. Unfortunately, it's a virtual presentation. She said that she oh, I think it's both worth the time to attend. Say, Gareth or something.
No, I think it's covered. I was particularly pleased with Ryan. He is unbelievable. Good resource for us because he's certified. He's now in a role I think is critical.
Yeah, they have a lot of great ideas. Again, they have great budgets. Those great ideas well. So it's sort of what you can do with what
You, the thing I was impressed with is the transition of police from officers to special constables and others. That's going on in virtually every profession. Assistants being trained to do things that nurses used to do. Same thing. I just see that trend in policing growing. That's good analysis. I don't agree with it, but it seems to be that's the trend.
I think it's a good special conference. Basic things that officers are not doing. It was interesting that Dr. Ivan Joseph was there in a presentation, and his was a much different spin than what the 380s were. His was much more positive than that.
It's much better received.
Oh, yes, yes.
Sorry.
No, it wasn't. It was a classic case where I think the ladies didn't understand our audience. It's your duty to make sure that you got to have some policy in place. They looked around the room and what happened. Section 10.
I don't know what that was.
Which is OPP.
Oh, okay.
So they have no control whatsoever. So it's some of the messages was lost. Whereas with Dr. Joseph, he and he talked. He was director of athletics for Kitchener-Waterloo. Yes, he was. But, yes, I don't talk about, talking about diversity, and what the impact of, target what's on diversity. Not only for golfers of color, but also for men. There were no naked golf balls. 60,000. So talk about diversity.
Take on like a business perspective.
Yeah. Sure. They talked about just trying to hire people. It's gone to that. It's different. And he's been huge. And not only people that trained marginalized people in the university, not only with Florida, but across Canada and around the world. They have gone from rolling the total as far as I've achieved, way up here, and the GPAs way up. We all talk about paying for. Look about paying benefits for those people that made a success. Anything else, Joe? Did you get a chance to? Yeah, no.
Joe, what was the takeaway of that? It was 3-1. I assume it's some of it mismatched lines.
Yeah,
What was the big takeaway?
I think there's just different perspectives on very anti-targets, which is
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, what was their
very
logic?
strong.
What was their logic?
They didn't work, that you can't take somebody who's not prepared for that position. And they were more focused on mentoring and that, I mean, he used, he knows speak the position differently. They were the same concept.
Yeah.
So that idea that you need to be supported all the way through. Different takes on that training, so when you go, not necessarily just in one service, but maybe successful placing other services. Because as we get higher in the ranks, there's less of them. Yeah, they were all very high. Successful police professionals. And but that is that's higher ranks increasing, there's less of them. So we need to outside
You say the same about our new executive director, she has vast amounts of stuff. So kind of bring to the organization, something kind of is never have a professional police person in the role. That's seems like she's going to be.
Yeah, exactly. And it just to say but so coming out of the conference, it's a questionnaire on some of the challenges, priorities, which repository would like to see with it's an excellent I guess the back solid those comments, etc. 2 weeks. Sometime in September or October. Moving on to some 5 meeting, virtually, so there's some training session. Both of these are waiting. And again, expect to take the event, which is probably sometime. Sergeant Dixon's farmhouse. He serves an excellent presentation. trafficking. That was essentially today. Unfortunately, the presentation of South Carolina trafficking in Ontario, especially along 404, 12, yes, 9. There's next one. We'll go with those. I think they're also going to use towards a hybrid. So beyond online version, also the live Ontario, very specific as opposed to especially the internet. So all Ontario is virtual, similar to March. That's all I'm getting from these. Going to be touched on the question.
Good, Mr. Chair, starting with criminal investigations branch. There's a number of interesting investigations that occurred throughout the month of May. Early month, we had a sexual assault involved a 2-year-old victim. Injected an unknown substance and sexually assaulted a 47-year-old male. Stairwell identified from assistance of video surveillance, charged with administering noxious substance and sexual assault. In that incident. Number of the music CDs circulated amongst a number of businesses in the downtown. Turns out they were looked at in terms of whether or not they might constitute a hate crime, but it's basically a number of songs on there. They're all religious context, a lot of them are very much homophobic. People that receive them are upset with that, so we to make 4 or 5 or 6 that being sent home. Sexual assault in the newspaper, but inappropriate touching of a student by an 81-year-old male bus monitor. Ended up identifying 2 victims out of that, ages 5 and 8. Both female victims were touched by the bus monitor for sexual purpose. He was arrested and charged. We did further work there with Catholic School Board, both the organized messaging parents and as well as work together on joint video release. There's a lot of follow-up investigation that happened in our CID office there with engagement of a lot of parents that had concerns. Luckily, it seems to have been limited only to the 2 students. We're worried that expanded beyond that. Bus monitor is no longer sexual harassment investigation regarding a high school student being sexually assaulted by a student on school property. Continues to be still under investigation. We had a shooting incident May 26th, which involved late night incident where a number of shots were fired between 2 vehicles in the 900 block of 11 East, which actually resulted in stray rounds making their way into 2 unrelated vehicles in that area as well. Again, a lot of work has been put into that. Can't comment a lot in the open session, but there's progress being made in that investigation. Vehicles have been identified and it's on the number warrants and such that they've written on that. So it's definitely solvable. Last one, we had during some of the welfare checks that our officers are doing regularly, sort of marginalized population complaint came forward for sexual assault. Claimant will provide information first. They provided some details. The officers went through the process of trying to get interviews and over that investigation. At some point, left the hospital, refused information, and that's avoiding us Community Addictions and Mental Health Supports have been requested to notify the complainant, should the receiver, with respect to our anxiety. The rest of this report is related to just some of the items, training meetings and the other things that sort of I have a lot of time down here. I do want to point out good news in that just last year, almost every meeting, we have another really deaf. We are still holding at three after the first couple of months of the year. So it's been probably 3 or 4 months since we've had, I'm not sure what's driving that, but it's certainly good news. So, 14 deaths last year, which was far too high, and we're trending very low for the rest of the year. Auxiliary unit, back in action. They May 9th participated with respect to doing it. There's shop and cop event. We had a number of our auxiliary members helping out with that. $600 of food donated to the Salvation Army Food Bank as a result of that. Our use of force training is taking place. All of our auxiliary members have to requalify by annual our training officer. They did that on May 30th, and they're going to drive arms at a total of 89 hours. There's a picture attached here of each on the top of it. And now we move to core. So we had a core presentation at our last meeting. Eric Edmiston is the new member that was brought in on May 24th. This is the second day in the unit and had a presentation for last month, so it's now up and running. So core participated in the shop and cop event as well. They've been having some ongoing meetings with Grey County Housing related to a number of the issues that they're experiencing in some of the buildings. They're working on a plan to help them assist with that. Constable Martin and Constable Edmiston were very involved with the Reach Center and assisting Constable Granny with some of the events that are going on there. The cafe that's set up at the Reach Center. Career fair at OSPSS. Listing up the foot patrol locations that were done by Core is there. Constable Martin assisted with a number of the child interviews that took place following the bus chaperone sexual assault incident. And she was also involved at the late shooting, as you get quite a sense of video cameras. A number of pieces of evidence of that investigation. Some information in regards to calls for service assisting the patrol unit. The hard has been started off. We're having all issues that are going on at night at the hard. There's follow up down there with respect to alcohol gaming commission and with the inspectors and which ones we discuss issues and trying to get that resolved. We've also been working with some of the encampments, as Special Constable Granny indicated. It's an interesting one in the investigations, one which is proactive investigation that occurred where officers working in the Facebook marketplace and gave a couple of rented kayaks that were being put for sale by someone they recognized as one of our homeless persons. That was actually a wooded area that they were holding kayaks, determined that they came from Canadian Tire. Tires were theft and they brought them back, but more expedition from the to possessing the property. So basically took it from finding the property on Facebook Marketplace and determining it's still that investigation. It was a great proactive investigation here. Hillcrest Elementary Rex investigation that they've been working with the school and helping to manage. Just listening to some meetings. Report from May. Quick look for a prisoner meal proposal. Constable Martin alluded to this a little bit during her court presentation, but she's done a lot of work on this and she's put a great proposal together. So currently when we have prisoners in custody, what's going on for the last number of years is we are purchasing the food from the workers drive-through basically, the workers groceries back for meals to be purchased. So Council Martin, through her relationship both with Reach and with OSHare, started looking at whether it would be an alternative to meal situations we're doing before to actually be able to put some money back into those two organizations. So there's a proposal before you, and what the proposal essentially is that the Reach Center, who works with some of the developmentally challenged persons in the community, would be putting together some packaging for some of the food items, and they would use that as a vocational exercise with the people that are at Reach Center, the packaging together for us, bundle up the items, and then OSHare, who we're all aware of, actually, when she spoke to OSHare, they indicated that they'd be going to provide sandwiches free of charge on the consumption of the points that we see are the same as the ones that they do. So, and they actually work out a process where they would provide the sandwiches. OSHare currently has a small fridge that was donated from they have been using. They've offered to provide us and cell block and we've been able to stock of both the Reach items and the OSHare sandwiches, which would then help our prison. There's a whole bunch of benefits to this where we don't have to send somebody to the drive-through and prisoner meal. We would have a supply here that we could just replenish when we need it. But the great part is we would look at being able to provide back to both of those agencies that just want to assist the programs. So we're not talking about any kind of increased expense here. We would be looking at OSHare, we'd be looking at a donation to them, which would be similar to what we're to partners, and it's the same for Reach. So Reach is not charity funded, they self-fund through fundraising and that sort of thing, with some costs to go back to the families the clients up there. So this is a great proposal on both cases where we're able to get back with the community, which has some lessons. So
Proceed if you've done excellent.
yeah,
And if it's everybody.
yeah, no, it's yet another great great thing that's come out here. The proposal is there for you, so I can't see any downside to it. We have no contract with the markets that requires us to purchase. Last time I went through the drive-through, it was looking cars deep, so we don't.
Take time.
Any questions on that? Moving forward.
Any other discussion?
Observation, even when I think of social media, I just read about this Hillcrest that, like, isn't it like a fire hydrant? You know, the Twitter and the texting, the threats, you know what I mean? Like, how do you, if you don't mind, like, what red flag goes up to tell a police officer this needs to be taken seriously, as opposed to, I mean, kids especially, are just all over their phones saying inappropriate things all night long. I'm just curious, what red flags trigger you guys? A threat, a threat.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the school becomes involved in those notifying us when there's things that cross the line. I mean, certainly there's the student matter, but bullying, anything that violates the school policies, crosses the criminal threshold, that's a lot of what Jason does with the schools. There's a lot of education around it's appropriate in social media. And that is one of the things that's actually complicated, very much so. Over the years, because that whole dynamic was well. So even the process of having to download some of the phones and collect all the evidence off the phones and deal with the evidence and those sorts of things makes some of these investigations we have officers trained up be able to access the phones and that sort of thing. So it's just one of those things that's added to the police over the years. But
Yeah, I guess. And the fire hydrant model, and I was just wondering, like, you guys train that much of threat will be red flag, I mean, bullying, harassment, or what I see through some of my files, you know, it's just awful. I'm just wondering how you guys could possibly police
We're
this.
not policing it in terms of doing any monitoring of social media accounts and that sort of thing. Usually these ones will come to our attention to the schools. Complaint or walk around the school that this is going on and they're adjacent to other officers who know about it. In action there, so it has to cross the bridge. There's no surreptitious monitoring of social media platforms going on looking for this kind of stuff. It's some reaction.
Interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Collision statistics for the month of May, there was 50 collisions, 19 on the east side, 8 on the west, 23 in the parking lots, 8 fatal and 8 collisions, and of those 50 collisions, 31 were looked after by our collision reporting center and 19 by our officers. Those collisions are up over last month. Moving on to community services, you had a great presentation by Jason Craven this morning. They touched on a lot of the things that he's doing, just a couple things from his report. He's been involved with OOPS, which is law enforcement agencies and partners to protect seniors. It's a provincial group that Jason's part of, and also like Conway, one of our investigations officers. And it's a great resource. Human trafficking collaboration with local high schools, officer resource community. Planning for an event in the summer, work with Eastridge and Hillcrest on safety issues with students, and some of the presentations that we did. The presentation with Silver Seas. Social media and awareness and the law with grade 6s at St. Samuel, also at their health and safety fair, and there's also doing staff at CPAS, see a photograph and materials there at St. Samuel. Jason was up there. Moving on to lost hours in training, we had 11 full-time members who were sick or injured during the month, for a total of 285 hours. 2 members on the west side for 69 hours. Additionally, we had 2 full-time employees that were absent due to illness or isolation related to the pandemic for a total of 76 hours. That's down significantly last few months. 2 members on WSIB, 1 member is on modified duties, 1 member is long-term, 2 members are on full team. For training, our officers and special constables for block training, which includes firearms for qualification. First aid training, we had 6 members, so the service attended CIS training, which is applied suicide prevention skills training. It's provided through the CHA office, and one of our sergeants continues with me. If there's no questions, so I'll move on to frontline patrol. We had 175 highway traffic charges for the month, 75 cautions, 18 license act charges, 156 criminal code charges, and 129 for patrol. So that there was 10 ride programs, and we had 1 joint forces ride program with other areas of police services that took place in Salt Beach with a long weekend. We had 2 drivers charged with driving. There's no questions. That concludes my report.
Moving on to report from
Start with board bylaws, not much to report there. We have a taxi license reissue, we have a license issue, which is move on to the courts. Expecting personnel change, which I think we'll deal with as a board report, but forming special counsel has been brought on board. One being the court case manager in full-time capacity and 3 part-time court special counsels. The information related to the special constable, the number of hours he's hired, we spoke about that at our last meeting with respect to some of that being driven by a sort of hybrid model where we're starting to bring some custody appearances back to courts, which is to having dual roles of custody both for the station and the courthouse. Other than that, there's nothing with courts, unless there's a question there. And with respect to records, we had 9,791 bulk searches, which compares to 5,900 same month last year. So again, that is good news. Those are revenue generating third-party records checks. Those numbers are coming back up. They were a little bit lower last month due to staffing issues. I'm starting to get picked up and back to that role. Numbers are coming back up. So, any questions?
So for looking at the calls for service for the month of May, we're actually up 13% over the same time last year. We had a sharp increase there. Another 200 calls over the same time, and that's pushed our overall calls for service for the year up. So we're actually just slightly higher compared to 2021. So it's unfortunate, and hopefully that doesn't. That's the
On that, we've been trending more since last August. I think a lot of it is just back up. Yeah, back to what since establishment last year, almost a year, and now that's become an issue. So, but looking forward to
Not only numbers, but severity as well.
but priority calls there. That's where the number of calls overall is increased in the last week.
You see that in the priority ones too, which are different series.
Yeah.
Translate that.
Those reports. So there's I spent the RFPs for Durham County. Same business in several locations. Training for cybersecurity for all IT members, risk to our sites, to our systems. That's providing speed in all our systems for protect. Onboarding several staff members, take some time and quality of hires. RMS upgrades to all our stations that go around. Large amount of video process, investigation, perform branches, and installations of infrastructure and documentation of their system. So all of our services are very kind of require radio system, and just yesterday the first service had a fire department online system of their system. Yeah. So the main financials, you see the variance is 2.34%. Just some, I like to, we're in line for that. expenses there, so it's somewhat higher for some legal expenses. 3,100 officers budget is in line with the budget, slight variance for the salaries are all in line, slightly lower. 3,200 for the civilians. It's off, but we had more than $49,000 in expenses because of the revenue. So there's paid ahead to the end of the year by many, so it's about $420,000. The primary drivers there, budget line 3,200, our wages at almost 92%. And when you look at dispatch, full-time, part-time, overtime, it balances out, so I'm not concerned with the it's kind of a pulse for 87% total budget at this point in the year. It's not concerning. Capital made a couple of vehicles carried over to 2021 and made some grant purchases that aren't yet covered by the grant. So capital is quite high. In some of the overall, we're in good shape. We'll point out in the reports report that court costs are increasing. When you do a comparison to last year, we don't have back on our staff in the courts, we can see it ramp up a little bit. Offset from the province of court security funding is always based there to time, so that's it. So if any questions about the budget?
Question, it's for 15,000. Their wages full-time, is that? Any other questions?
Job.
We have to consider the council.
Yes. Accounts payable for May 1st to May 31st, or $7,981.
We had item number 15 versus.
Yeah, unfortunately, May it's managed to white gold for a long time, but finished the next 5 days of May. When it finally got up to me, somewhere from home, but it was probably the biggest time of my month. But I also participate regularly in City Hall management meetings for all the directors and staff. Had some discussions with elected on health services or sexual assault response for it. Looking at trying to increase the number of reports that come to police. A lot of people don't want reports to them either. Or how to implement their right report to actually get accurate information. Or a number of very appropriate reasons. But it's important for us to hold our discussions with our partners. Like we go on they are we find out about things and there's protection. Maybe we have some parties to go back and say, this type of situation, several. And oftentimes that process. So those talks are ongoing. Several hours spent in one meeting for that portion of the business. Also, the procedure review was shorter last month. It's that sick. Community safety crime prevention, OSPSB, so video that's on to 2 days, but they chat about small and mid-sized chief. Was that's violence.
Any other type of business? Sorry, did the board report to the special counsel?
see that.
You have that?
I do have it. Online, just put that on, Mr. Chair. There was a report presented, basically relates to the new special constables we were hired in the last month. So we have 4 new special constables. They are 4 part-time court specialists, Rick Wardrop, David Riches, and Brent Clayton. And then we also have Michelle Kent, who's the full-time court case manager, all of which are designated by the province as court special constables. They completed the training, that's the most required training, were designated as special constables. And given that the special constable appointment is a function of the board under section 53 of the Police Services Act, Mr. Chair, I would ask that the Minister for motion for the board to appoint those 4 individuals as special constables. Designation for special constables.
The motion for that? John, thank you. Second. Sure. All in favor?
Sorry, I do have just one quick item. If I could just let the board know that 2-3 years ago was Missing Persons Act was put in place, and that Missing Persons Act allowed for some rather intrusive checks to be made on an emergency basis with respect to a missing persons investigation. It allows warrantless checks at banks and things like that. When they initiated that piece of legislation, there was provision on that. Services all need to report on usage of that, and we also need to put that annual report on our website. So I'm just saying this last year, zeros across the board, not using those special powers. That's the report back to the street. We will have that report. So just like the board know we are compliant with the Persons Act that marks.
Anything else to I'll just remind everybody the next meeting is September 28th. Right. To